All right, let's get this started. This should be a short one, mostly because kind of done all the prep for the most part. Just need to do my post-mortem from last time and fill in a few blanks. So last time we ended up getting 2 jobs. We had, well, not 2 jobs, but we ran through 2 full sets of the not job, and they decided to steal the chemicals, and that ballooned into something else. I was actually really happy with how the job went. I think it was interesting having them split up. That created an interesting opportunity. I was maybe a little generous with that secondary objective, but they weren't earning any cred from the main job, just allaying paying something later that they wanted anyway. And it makes sense to give them a little extra scratch while they're getting this big score that they've been planning for a while together. And like, thinking about it, this is a big score for them. They have taken a reduced cut on 2 jobs in a row in order to set this up. So I guess that's fine. I think starting off in a desperate position, I don't think I pushed that hard enough. Then again, they rolled really well. They were on fire that last session. So there was one where somebody went to scramble up some boxes and I just had them fall, and that attracted the attention of the guards. I think maybe they should have taken a small amount of harm from that, and then like everything else was successes for the most part, except that final pickup roll, which was just I think that was a fair price, that they lost the thing that Matt really wanted to get. But that's what you get when your position's desperate. I think they earned a bunch of XP from that, and I wasn't good. I think I did all right about keeping on top of them about it, but that's the problem with my group, is like some groups will be so thirsty for XP that, you know, they will remind me every chance there's a trigger. Like they will take a note every time they do something that could get them some experience. My guys are like, yeah, we don't care, whatever. Did I get experience on that? Me. It's got its ups and downs. Means I'm not constantly having to deal with that, but it also means I'm worried about them getting the short end of the stick when it comes to experience. One thing I'm going to talk to, hopefully, so after this next session, I want to have a conversation with them about how they think things have gone. Because, spoiler alert, the way I'm thinking this is going to end up is I'm going to treat this as like the end of the season. They're going to do this big drug cooking job. They're going to deliver. They're going to get paid a shitload of money. And then we're going to set up some cliffhangers for next time. So we're probably going to take a month or 2 off from it. Or forever. I don't know. That tends to be kind of how these things go. Is they can end up taking forever off. And that's fine. We've told a fun story so far. I don't feel a need to finish it if our attention drifts. So going to next session, we got through downtime, I believe. I'll have to double check that. I'll double check that. I'll rewatch the last session recording. That's why it's good to have that shit. But so they got that taken care of. We might have a little bit to do, but then they're going to go into free play, where essentially it's just going to be setting up the drug cooking job. Generally, I want to be able to give them options if they don't want to do a thing. I don't want to railroad them into that. But they've spent enough time setting this up that I think if they're like, let's put that off, I think it's just going to be like, no, you're going to lose your opportunity here. The Guild of Engineers is going to want their equipment back by the time you go and do another thing and then get ready to actually do this. This is your shot. Take it. You've spent enough time setting it up. So they're going to do this job one way or the other. So it'll be up to them how they want to arrange where they go, what they do, security, transportation, all these questions I had here. And I think maybe, like, for the question of where do they set up, it'll be a question of, I was thinking of, like, making that some sort of gamey choice of, oh, you can pay more to get more security, or you can pay less to, and possibly take a risk. I think I'll just let them freewheel it and come up with whatever they want. They can pick the planet, they can pick the area, they can pick whatever they want about it. And then I'll just set a reasonable expectation for that. It might be an acquire assets role. Like, I think acquire asset for a workspace is going to be important. And if they could choose to do it anywhere, and then there's going to be some extra risk there. I think. So one of the things I was thinking about was, do I have an engagement role for this? Does that make sense? And I think it kind of does. Or no. I don't know if it does or not. I should if I don't know that, I think what I should probably do is I should probably just do an engagement role. Like, maybe not have it a standard plan and point of entry, but, like, they tell me broadly how they want to set this thing up, and we just make a roll to see how things went getting things set up. So it's going to be a basic engagement role. And it'll be primarily affected by the above questions. So that'll tell us where they are going in. Like, if they get a critical on that, lucky bastards, we'll mark a couple slots on the clock for the cooking clock. So yeah, there'll be the 6 o'clock for somebody called the cops. Do I even want to make that a 6 o'clock? I think this is a 4 o'clock. Yeah, because that'll force them to do a bunch of the cooking while under fire, and I really think that's going to be fun. It's going to be. I'm going to load this into the Discord bot and play it once the police assault begins. So yeah, they're going to show up. There's going to be some sort of initial assault. They fight it off, and then as they continue to cook, there'll be some sort of probing attack with each cook, or it could just be the consequences of however the cooking roll tells us what we need to know about what happened with the police, because they're going to lay siege. They're going to be pissed about the system defense officer that was blown up at the end of last session. And then there's going to be another bigger fight as they go to get out. So, or they'll, assuming they don't do something fancy, and that's up to them to do something fancy. Flashbacks and escape tunnels and what have yous. So yeah, I think the first few rolls are just going to be about building tension and maybe adding to that somebody called the cops clock, and then yeah, then we should get into the real action, which is finishing off the cook clock while dealing with the police. And then they're going to, whatever their transportation plan is, they're going to have to figure that out. So, Jesse, we need to cook, gets moved down to the bottom here. So that's the job. I guess we don't really care about this spare job, but it's there, whatever. I'm going to deal with it. All right. So after that, it's going to be the usual cycle of payoff, upkeep, heat, entanglement. And you'll notice that Pax owes creditors is here in the place of the entanglement, which is what I think I want. So I'm going to invoke my DM wants a cliffhanger for his season finale, and I think it's going to be Pax gets kidnapped by the creditors. Like, I think this is going to be something where we're going to just go into downtime. I'm not going to mention the entanglement. I'm not going to mention the creditors. He's going to do a thing, and at the end of his second thing, they're going to make a move on him, and they're going to grab him. We're going to forget free play here. Actually, is downtime even appropriate? I don't think downtime is appropriate. I think what we're going to do is, this is a season ender. We're going to... Ooh, here's an idea. False downtime. So we'll do payoff, upkeep, heat, and then I will say, okay, going into downtime, Pax, what's your first downtime action? He does his first downtime action, and that's when I hit him with the creditors. And surprise, we're not doing downtime. We're doing something different because this is a bigger thing. So how do we handle Pax and the creditors? I think it's going to be, he's going to be in a desperate situation from the start. And so I can't. So here's the thing: is like, I have to give him a chance, but it's going to be stacked really heavily against him. He's going to have harm almost right away if he fights back. If her fights back, jeezy Pete's, guys, I am tired. All right, so, and then he will be taken, or then he will probably be taken. This could just be a matter of Pax goes down swinging. I would not put it past him. And if that happens, I'm not going to feel bad about it because Chris has worked really hard to put Pax in this shitty situation. I think just as a way of making life interesting. So this is, I believe, just desserts for taking out a huge loan and then blowing off his creditors, even though he could pay it off. And so I think this is a reasonable consequence of the actions he took. So if it goes really badly for him and he fucking dies, well, that's that's a thing that'll happen. And if he doesn't, if he just fights back until he takes a trauma, then he's unconscious and they take him away, and there's a cliffhanger right there. And then after that, the Seekers will reach back out. And they're going to have some semi-cryptic message that's worth getting excited about. Like, you won't believe what we found. Yeah, I think that sounds right. And then that's, boom, season over. And I'm going to want to do a post-mortem with the players. If I think about it, this job's probably going to be pretty involved. There's going to be some setup time. This could be an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm going to want to try and get people started early so we have enough time to get to this other stuff. The thing with PAX and the thing with the Seekers. Well, that's going to be real quick. It'll be like 2 minutes, really. But I do want to discuss that. Some of my thoughts that I want to bring up are that the credits are hard. I've been doing some more reading through of Blades in the Dark, and because Blades in the Dark has that secondary currency of reputation, it has a lot more flexibility about how it handles certain things and how you can have a job where you actually don't net any money, but it's not a setback because you got reputation. And this just doesn't have that. This has like relationships with factions, but that's not. Sometimes that's even like a double-edged sword. That's not like a weapon they can wield, the way reputation lets you advance in tier. And that left, because of that, because they're just ripping systems out of Blades in the Dark to put into Scum and Villainy, then, the tier of the ship is this super abstract thing that it isn't in Blades, where everything's just better for some reason. It really doesn't work here. And a lot of mechanics suffer for it. Acquire an asset roles in particular because they rely on the ship tier to function. And it's just like, well, we're just going to treat you as tier 1 always, I guess? It's frustrating. It does not work. It does not work properly. I am very frustrated by that part of the system. So creds are hard. Tier doesn't work here. Yeah, it's just not set up right. I think XP triggers are okay, but the players needed to push them more. And that's on me. I could have said something to my players earlier, like, guys, we're really scraping at the end of every session to figure out what you did that earns experience. Like, what I needed to say early on, and again, this is on me, I needed to say it early on, was, hey, you guys need to be looking at these throughout the session, thinking about how you're going to meet them, because this is how your character advances. They are essentially Blades in the Dark characters, and Blades in the Dark characters can get very, very strong, but they're in a race between getting strong and gaining trauma. Which, if I'm looking back on 8 sessions, we have had a single level of trauma here. And, yeah, I probably should have pushed that harder. They also play super careful. So it's like, it's hard. Like, maybe that's something we need to push in the fiction too more, is just, hey, you guys are like crazy risk takers. Like, stop calling your accountant to make every decision here, so to speak. I don't like XP on Desperate. It's hard to track. If I miss saying what the position is for a roll, it's like there are bad consequences to that, regardless of how the roll turned out because well, we missed XP or we didn't. And it's frustrating. What I want to do going forward, and this would be for Scum and Villainy, or if we switch to Blades in the Dark, which I kind of want to do. I like spaceships, but Blades in the Dark is a better game. Scum and Villainy is a square peg rammed into a round hole, unfortunately. I don't like XP on Desperate. I think I would rather see my favorite experience trigger in Powered by the Apocalypse games. My favorite experience trigger in Powered by the Apocalypse game is you get a miss. That's the best. It works for so many reasons. Like, you learn more when you fail than when you succeed. It gives a silver lining no matter how bad the consequences of the roll were. You get the silver lining of, well, at least you got an experience point. Like, there were a couple of sessions there where Matt was just getting punished by his dice over and over again. And it's like, well, geez, if we'd been using this rather than XP on Desperate, you'd be like, you'd be getting it over and over again. And like, the only way you can abuse that is by making lots of rolls you don't need, but that's sort of regulates itself, because situations will get bad if you make lots of rolls you don't need. And even then, it's a better system. Oh, and the other thing is, it encourages people to try stuff that their character isn't absolutely the best at. Like, Chris has leaned hard again into Helm for PAX, and that's great. That's what he should do. But, like, now that he's got that, he's got no reason to try and use any other skill if he could use Helm. You know? Whereas, if you get an XP when you fail, well, I mean, I could try to make Helm work for this, or I could maybe get a shot at getting an experience point. You know? See how it goes. It lessens the blow when the characters step outside their comfort zone. And maybe this is my personal hang-up as a GM, but I don't like a character just rolling their best thing over and over and over again. That was one of my main gripes with Apocalypse World, where there were too many skills that let you roll your best ability to do something where you normally have to use a shitty one. And then the result is they just roll 3+ on everything they do, and if they can't roll 3+ on this thing, well, they just don't try. But that was my biggest gripe with Apocalypse World. So XP on a miss. That's what I want to do going forward, and I want to run it past them. I'm still not in love with the end of session triggers. I always find that that's really hard to... It's really hard to make happen, because like at the end of a session, we're fucking tired. We are old farts, and we are, doing this wrapping up at 11:30 on a Friday after a long week at work. Like, we can't remember what we did 30 minutes prior, let alone, So, yeah. Def awkward, though. So maybe there's a better way to do that. Like maybe what I'd have to do is I'd have to think about, well, what's the formula for approximately what's the average number of experience points a player should get in a session using the desperate and the playbook triggers, and then just find a system that would work for that. Maybe it's just you have to tell me when you do a thing, and that means you need to stay on top of it because we're not going back more than 5 minutes to get you an experience point. Maybe that's the way to do it. Just have an in-the-moment thing. Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it, is like those end-of-session stuff, like we mark it, technically we're marking it at the end of the session, but you're announcing it when you hit a trigger. None of this, let's go back and think about it. Can we figure this out? Yeah, it's just awkward. It slows down everything, and that was a gripe I had with Apocalypse World too, and this is where this came from. Like, you had all this history stuff that you do at the end of the session, and it's like, okay, all right, guys, we're all tired, we're all done for the night, but let's make sure that we stop having fun, yet keep doing this for another 15 minutes. All right, get out your homework. That's what doing history in Apocalypse World felt like, and that's what this feels like. It feels like fucking shitty homework when we're all tired and we're done. We're already done, but no, we got to stay and we got to do this. So I don't like that. I think there's got to be another way to handle that. So yeah. And I want to make sure I get that in there. But so that's my planning. I'm just gonna have to think up some imagery for cooking drugs, and for Pax getting his shit pushed in, and for our little end of season cliffhanger. Definitely some loose ends. We haven't looked at factions in a while, and I don't see any point now. This is something that's going to. They actually kind of stepped away from the faction game a little bit because they wanted to do this drug cooking thing, where they're not really doing jobs for factions. They're not trying to anyway. They're yeah. Oh yeah, I did do a clock for when are the Cult of the Seekers going to get back in touch. Oh well, that's done. That's gone. We figured that out. And honestly, what a pain in the dick it would be if I actually kept with that, and this is when the Cult of the Seekers called in. It's like, you're ready to cook your drugs. Hey, you want to come back to this story thing that you guys kind of forgot about? No, yeah, it doesn't work. So, hopefully it all goes well. Wish me luck.